Yes. Alright, that's the video. Thanks for watching. Okay. No, I'll tell you why I think Fairly Odd Parents A New Wish is worth watching. And well, I don't think you'd be surprised why that's my answer if you saw all the praise coming from Twitter. Clips of the show getting thousands of likes and getting people into the show just because of the fans doing this. I mean, that's how they got me. You see, I was not a Fairly Odd Parents fan, but I was familiar with the memes, I saw at least one episode of the original series when I was younger, and a handful of the Oh Yeah cartoon episodes. That was quite some time ago. I've heard the complaints from older fans about the original series and how it kept getting worse and lowering audience expectations with each reboot or looking back at the old live-action movies and later series of the show's run with anger or questions as to why the show lost its way and became a flanderized version of its glory days. So, I never paid any mind to the franchise. One day, I was scrolling along Twitter and saw this clip of, well, I'll just let the clip speak for itself.
My dad loves his boots more than me. The festival turned into a robotic uprising. I'm so miserable. Hey, kid.
Jaw dropped, hands in my hair, eyes wide, thoughts rushing through my head a mile a minute. Who is this? What is this? I need to watch this show now! I was immediately intrigued and invested. I wanted to know what this was all about, and well, I'm glad I didn't brush it off and decided to watch the series myself because it became something I couldn't and still can't get out of my head. I had no frame of reference when it came to judging the show for what it was as a revival of the original series, but I could tell the showrunners and everyone who had a hand in creating the show was incredibly passionate about the IP and respects it. Everything from the art style to the music, voice acting, and animation is just amazing. It's hard to believe that this was made on such a low budget. There will be little to no spoilers besides the little purple guy. I'll try my best to keep things vague and give you just the basic rundown of the show. So, let's don our wands, wings, and floaty crowny things, and begin. Continuing 20 or so years after the original series ended, we meet Hazel Wells, our protagonist. She's a 10-year-old girl that moved to a new city because of the job her father got. On top of that, her brother just went to college, and now she has no one that understands her or feels really comfortable around. We see how and why she received her own fairy godparents, that being Cosmo and Wanda, who have been retired for over 10,000 years, traveling through space and time after they stopped being Timmy Turner's godparents. Hazel is very upset and emotional about her brother not being a present part of her life anymore. Because of that, Cosmo and Wanda feel as though they want to help her out by becoming her fairy godparents. And now, from the little I knew about the franchise, Timmy received his godparents because of how miserable his life was. His parents never made time for him, and he was always left home with an evil babysitter. So Cosmo and Wanda becoming Hazel's godparents is really different from the original series. However, I think this take on how she receives them makes sense. The couple had taken a break away from godparenting for over 10 millennia, and now see a young child struggling to keep their emotions in check. I feel like that's really cool. They're retired and now want to get back into the swing of things because of Hazel and want to help her. They weren't assigned to Hazel, they just love helping children, and it's been so long since they've done that. Now, I think what the creators have done with the show is really great. Why? Well, because as a viewer with little to no knowledge of the original series, I still had fun watching all the episodes. Even though I knew who Timmy Turner was, I didn't know all the little inside jokes they made, I was still able to follow along and enjoy. Granted, I did end up watching a fair bit of Fairly Odd Parents, but if I stayed a casual viewer, I would still have fun with the show nonetheless. I also like how they approached the relationship between Cosmo and Wanda. After I became invested in the series, I saw people saying how happy they were about Cosmo and Wanda finally falling back in love. And I was so confused. What do you mean they didn't love each other in the OG series? They did in the Oh Yeah cartoons? What happened?
Have you gained weight?
A lot of weight.
I don't want to be a crab all the time.
That's never stopped you before.
It's not their job to make your life fun.
Yeah, pretty much the opposite. Like wives. And that he should consider the consequences, blah, blah, blah.
Because I'm the opposite of fun.
I so love
ocean in this black hole we call life.
Tilly, this is no time to recite my wedding vows.
Yeah. I'm glad they're still the silly loving couple, two halves of a whole idiot that I associated them as being. Throughout the episodes, we learn more about the characters and the world they live in. We see different environments such as the museum the school Hazel goes to, the celebrations, events in the city. We even get to learn a bit about fairies and Fairy World, as well as how after Timmy, the rules became more specific and have to go through other magical beings or fairies. As we follow Hazel, we see her become more comfortable in the city she now lives in. Not completely though, not to the point where she wouldn't need her fairies anymore. We see her get nervous and be self-conscious about herself. Hazel can also be selfish or not think things out fully, just like any normal child or 10-year-old would. I mean, this is her on her first day of school, and look at this.
Is it pizza time? My fellow classmate.
The episodes, I think, are just so silly, fun, and charming. We see the lessons she learns after she makes a wish, such as learning that she doesn't have to be perfect at everything her brother was, or not to be too focused on the mistakes you make in your everyday life that are just embarrassing to you. But there's also a handful of silliness in the series as well, such as trying to get her parents to fall back in love, or a bit of both. Hazel getting too anxious about making friends her age, so she decides to be friends with her teachers, which soon backfires. We finally see her make friends though, such as Jasmine, Wynn, and Dev. Dev being the son of Dale Dimmadome, the founder of Dimsdale Global, who is the long-lost son of Doug Dimmadome,
owner of the Dimmadale.
Over time, we come to realize that this is a more serialized take on the Fairly Odd Parents. The first half is more goofy and introduces us to the characters of Dimmadelphia and new characters as well, and the second starts delving into a more plot-driven and grounded story. And that all starts with the budding friendship between Dev and Hazel. When we first see Dev, he's introduced as the spoiled brat of a character, a bully that takes advantage of being the richest man in Dimmadelphia's son. He makes fun of Hazel, but over time, we see the reason why he acts this way. His dad never makes time for him and never pays him any mind. I mean, he doesn't really care for him. He names his son Development Devin Dimmadome for crying out loud. Like, that's dimoppressing if you ask me. We see how Hazel and Dev's relationship develop over time. But we also see how his personal life affects the friendship as well. The series also handles the return of older characters from the original show very well. I won't go and name all of them just to keep you interested, but I will talk about one that I introduced earlier, and that being Poof, who now goes as Perry.
Like Periwinkle?
I mean, I don't think I could gloss over this little purple guy. He's the reason why I got into the show in the first place. He's the son of Cosmo and Wanda, and a new fairy godparent. And who is he assigned to be as his first god kid? That's right, it's Dev. We see how these two are quite literally the opposites of one another. This creates some really funny banter and creates pretty well done drama. I love how the show handles the characters' relationships and interactions. It feels really believable in such a silly show. But it also reminds you that you should care for these characters because each of them have complex feelings and they aren't just surface level one-note characters. They care for each other, they bond with one another, they have heart-to-hearts and even have arguments and disagreements. It makes you invested and wonder what will happen next to them and why they act the way they do. I implore you to check this show if you haven't already. It's really funny, creative, and it's got a lot of heart and talent invested into it. Without a doubt, I recommend this show. I believe the show will be put onto streaming on Netflix in, like, November, so save the date for that. So hopefully a season 2 can come and we can see more of the adventures the characters go on and see what they do next. Sure, there's some qualms I had with it. I mean, who wouldn't with anything? Nothing's perfect, but I did enjoy the time I had following this show and hope to see it continue. I've never been so excited for an ongoing show since Fiona and Cake, or really active in a fandom for a show that was airing since Skate to the Infinity. So that's all I've got to say about the revival of Fairly Odd Parents. Hopefully, I've persuaded you into checking out the show. Thank you for watching, and if you'd like, you can follow my Twitter where you can see me post about my sillies.